is like he found his calling and
Yeah,
you
good.
know,
Good
they
for
just,
him.
the Navy just moves him around.
Good for
I knew
him.
David was around still. I didn't, I haven't seen him.
Yeah, he works at WKO and kind
Okay.
of just lays low and, but yeah, Dennis hadn't been up, I think, since his dad had a heart attack. So it was good to see him.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, I don't have a ton of reason to run into
Yeah.
David, but I knew he's around
Yeah,
because we freshman year, we played ball together.
yeah.
So. With you, in fact.
Where I can start playing ball again.
Yeah. I told Nick I'd be there this week, so I have to
Aren't you
go
over
out.
40?
Yeah, and still bunch of old geezers meet up
Barely.
at the grades.
We're barely paid.
Yeah, you could be back. I don't know why I didn't bring it.
You're so good.
Printed a couple of copies.
Just like having another husband, isn't it?
I remember to print him an agenda and myself one too.
Mm.
But, oh, I was- I'm going back in the minutes.
There's a bathroom in here.
Right by the trunk.
Before we get started.
At least you let me shake your hand before you did. Keep going. You on your right.
Not too bad.
Hi, Christy.
If you want, you can take those photos.
Hi.
Remember that team, Ray? We had Jeff Dutton as our coach.
Oh, yeah, we're pretty good.
That was his first year. I don't know if he coached after that, but that was his first
He
year.
coached a couple of years, then he went up to where Mac Frazier was, and he was the
Okay.
girls
Oh,
coach.
okay.
Mount Vernon.
So by the time I came back, because I was freshman, then I came back as a
Yeah.
senior and he was gone by then.
Yeah. Did about 2 or 3 years and yeah, I went up to Mount Vernon. Coached the girls team up there for a really long time.
If you can
And we're
see
old
those.
enough, it means he's close to retiring or probably retired.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
And if you-
I was trying, man.
Even came in early to swap around. the
And I moved all
nameplates.
his name tags so he couldn't be as far away as I could. Didn't even matter. Dave still sits next to me.
I signed wrong one. Did you get me? Oh, no, next one down, okay. That way. Nope.
And do Scott.
which box it is.
Whichever
I
one
show
you
1
want.
minute still, so.
Ooh, not bad.
I know, right?
That's
Exactly. Yeah. It depends. If you're
Right.
running late, that's a great one to follow. That one's on. The rest of them are-
We're waiting for some, oh, Rob.
All right, call meeting order at 6 o'clock. Thank you, everyone, for coming. All right, so is Rob the only one missing? It was,
Yeah.
okay.
Howard had the flu is what I heard, so.
There's
Oh, there's
Rob,
Rob.
I'm gonna promote you to panelist.
Hi, Rob.
Yeah, Rob's not missing.
Okay,
Okay,
perfect.
perfect.
And does everyone have a packet or at least access to it?
Yeah, I have that.
Is, oh,
Oh,
Um,
that's how.
Is that- okay.
Yeah.
so I'm gonna, oh, shoot, I can't. Howard, I'm gonna allow you to talk, so I think you can go ahead and mute and unmute yourself on your phone. I can't promote you to panelist, but I've done all I can do on this end to unmute you. And I forget what the numbers are to
5,
mute.
5.
5 or 6.
*5 to unmute.
Does it say on here? No. Probably doesn't email though.
Okay. so there's-
*6
There it
to
is.
mute, unmute. There you
There
go.
is a few items that we want to try to get to today. Some of these items are updates. Some of these items we need to take care of. Some of them are really just to start the organization or start the conversation on some different ideas. But we also do need to take a deep dive on the contract. So first up is Rob will give us an update on what has been completed in the safety corrections at the fire hall.
Yeah, so we reviewed the safety actions that the plan outlined. The majority of them were related to some housekeeping issues that had built up over time. We had did a deep scrub over second week of September, I believe it was, which addressed a lot of the safety issues. I'm still working on getting a plan to get a couple power cords up off the floor. We have to get an electrician to do that for some reason. We can't just put cord rails up on the wall. I've spoken with a couple of local contractors about coming in and doing some quotes on building some for the lack of a better term, cubby holes, shelving, I guess, for the turnouts. I've also looked at what it would be to purchase some racks that would be easily moved into a news station if we ever got to that point. Just kind of want to have some comparison. I initially thought maybe doing some simple plywood and wood framed
Good choice, don't you?
locker type things might be cheaper, but I'm not sure. I haven't gotten good response out of the contractors. I got reordered accountability name tags for everybody. That wasn't really anything that was lacking. We just had a couple new members that we hadn't got tags for. Reposition of apparatus is not going to happen. We don't have enough building space. Inventory and secure safety equipment and supplies, that existed. That was because the consultants didn't ask about it. We already have equipment in safety cabinets in place with known access for the command staff and lead firefighters. They know how to get into it. I think that was about it. We did have another safety issue that come up. Our bay doors sprung, and I am waiting on a third quote to replace the bay doors with something that's not from 1959 and doesn't weigh a whole bunch. So that's probably going to be the next major purchase. I think the highest quote so far come in at about $39,000. That is the priority for safety. It tweaked the rails pretty good. We had Mac Construction come out and get the doors unsprung. He was confident that they would hold up for the interim, but agreed that we need to look at replacing the rail system and the doors. So he quoted on it, another outfit quoted on it, and I'm waiting for a third outfit out of Hood River to give me a quote. So that's the safety update.
Find the photo.
Thank you.
I did, but it's only on my computer. I'd have to look. Yeah.
So I took a picture of what they're using for turnout storage over in Cascade Locks, and it looks like a pretty straightforward thing to make. Doesn't look purchased, it looks made. Try to pull it up now.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking to replicate. So
Easy. So
It's lockers for
Mhm.
sports lockers.
Yeah.
Right, I mean,
Yeah, the only
Especially-
issue is ours is gonna try to be secured into those old concrete block walls.
right, right.
okay.
Mhm.
Okay, next up is, thanks, Rob. Mission, vision, and values. So the idea that we would look at this suggestion and
So the idea was to look at the suggestion, run it by the volunteers, see if there needs to be any tweaks, and then I don't know if it needs to be adopted by both the council and the district, or the department just needs to adopt it.
is this copied for another city or is it?
This was out of the strategic plan.
They gave us a list of things and we listed them one through whatever we thought was most important, and then they generated all of this based off the firefighters' responses.
So was just, I don't know if this is sufficient to work from, or if more effort wants to go into it.
I mean, it's really close. I think some of the suggestions what they have when they give us the rough draft, it was adding the stuff like the city of Stevenson in our communities and stuff, because it kind of didn't have some of that added to it at the time.
Mhm.
So thoughts so far? You guys need more time, you wanna look? Rob?
Does this,
thought?
does this need to have a council approval?
I think they can adopt it, can. Shouldn't they?
Yeah, I mean, so typically, like when council like adopts their strategic plan, there's kind of like a mission in there. That it was kind of agreed to. The adoption. I don't know how formal it needs to be at the city or the commission level, but the department definitely needs to agree upon
Yeah,
it.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm looking at you guys, not necessarily.
Right.
See your
We just
email.
go over it at our next commission
Mhm.
meeting. I think it's next, this coming Monday.
And then whatever's approved, we can then put up on the
Yeah.
city webpage
Yeah,
for the fire department.
you got that next week, Francis. All right. All right, we'll talk about it next Monday.
it is-
I'm looking at the mission statements now, and it's just a canned ESCI statement. It's
Yeah.
verbatim for the city of Santa Rosa Fire Department. So,
But it says Stevenson, not Santa Rosa.
yeah,
They both start with an S.
Yeah.
ESCI did that
Find a
one.
new place.
Probably the same consultants, but I
Right.
mean, I've been around mission statements for my entire adult life in the private industry, and you got to live the mission statement instead of just having them.
Mhm.
So that's kind of where I've kind of just been in a holding pattern. Like I've introduced the whole plan to all the firefighters. I believe I sent a copy to everybody. But it's, you know, I struggle with those mission statements because they are canned. You know, so we could either get elaborate or we could just adopt them. Did you guys make your own mission statement for the council strategic plan, Leona?
Yeah, there was one that was included in that one.
Yeah.
And I think it hadn't changed from when we did it back in,
3 or 4 years ago.
yeah, 3 or 4 years ago. I know we spent more time on it back then, but it hasn't really changed. We revisit it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, we can dedicate some time and bounce it off the volunteers and see if what they think about it. Kind of feels
Okay.
like a checkbox to me, to be honest with you.
Got it. All right, so are we planning on having another one of these joint meetings in the future?
yes,
All right, so I guess once that meeting, set next meeting date.
this is the last item. Yeah.
Well, you guys will come back with the completed version. Or I guess at this point, since we don't need city or council approval, you will let us know that you've approved these 3 items.
And we can get them up on the city website and get that.
You're talking about the mission, the vision and the values, right? Yeah.
So let's see what's. So this executive summary and the overview, Leona, on the organizational structure, this is pulled from the current contract, or is this from the strategic plan? The org
So
structure?
the 2 chiefs, 1 for each region is actually outlined in a contract. In the current interlocal agreement. It doesn't talk about other duties other than in relation to the contract, but it does reference to 2 fire chiefs.
I'm the chief of Fire District 2 as well. So there is
Then-
2 fire chiefs.
So
Two
in the
positions.
interlocal agreement, it actually states the fire chief for Fire District 2 has to reside in Fire District 2.
Yeah, well, that.
So
is
again, that's
also-
why the agreement's
It also
outdated.
had a 5-year sunset, so technically we haven't had one since what, 19?
I think it was then, didn't it say continues until,
No, it
So-
had a 5
did
year
it? Okay,
Yeah.
sunset in it.
okay.
So a little history on that, that I know Leona wouldn't have because we didn't talk about it is.
Yeah.
The fire department used to have 2 chiefs and it was chaos.
That's what I figured it would happen.
So they had it was either Marv Morash or Ron Shippey was the city fire chief, and I think Ron Shippey was the public works director for the city at the time, back before Gail Collins. And Ray McKinnon was the fire chief / fire commissioner / other things. And it ended shortly before after I joined in 1994. And then that's when the membership went with a single chief representing both agencies. And that's when we had Gail Collins come on as chief. She was the public works director for the city. And then after that, we had a couple other chiefs. One was Jay Johnston. He was a firefighter, and the other one was Rob. Can't remember his last name. But he moved on, he moved away. And then Wayne Martin took over after that. And then I took over from Wayne in 2014. So yeah, I represent both agencies as fire chief. So that would need to be considered moving forward on how we set that interlocal up.
Okay, so a lot of these items for me are kind of intermingled. So instead of addressing them one at a time. Like, do we like the contract the way it is? Can we, if we do, is the org chart, we need to look at the organizational structure. So I'm kind of struggling with the best way to move forward through all of these items. If they need to be one at a time, then we can go that far, that route. But
My general feel is we need to get the interlocal agreement taken care of. And I don't know if you guys read through it, but
Severely
it's
outdated.
atrocious.
Yeah.
it's tight.
I felt like I needed to turn myself into human resources just from reading it.
Well, and that's where, so
Looks like made on a minion.
one of the, so the org structure as far as hiring goes may feed into changes to the interlocal agreement. And so that's why it's kind of hard to figure out how to craft the agenda as to how they go together.
Yeah, and I was thinking that too. I don't know when council discussed that $135,000. I know I wasn't invited or let know that was going to be a discussion point. But yeah, if we hire somebody, we need to figure that out, right? And do you do it before and go and amend it after, or do you write it to where is today and then deal with when there's budget, or we actually do some analysis and see, does it need to be a full-time chief? Does it need to be a hired consultant? Does it need to be a training officer or a station captain or something like that? So that's where I was a little bit lost too, and not, Leon and I had a short talk when I was on vacation about what we needed to do to move forward, because it's clear that we don't have any interest in the current membership to step up and replace me. I've tried for 2 years. So, and I would like to at least give somebody at least 6 months of, mentorship and transition. So it's kind of where I'm at.
Okay, well, I'll take some suggestions where you guys want to start. You want to go line by line in the agreement? You want to, can't start over. It's a good place to start. But the format might, well, I don't know. It needs to be revised anyway, because it is very old, outdated, doesn't even go close.
I guess, is there anything you want to keep? I mean, I think the general consensus is district takes care of district equipment, city takes care of city equipment. That's pretty standard.
Yep.
Okay. And so then, as far as the items that are cost split, is that okay as well? I mean, do we want to keep it that way? Like just the items, I'm not talking about how they're split. So that would be, the Board of Volunteer Firefighters costs, the fire station repair and maintenance, fire station heating and lighting, and drill pay. Those are all the costs that are split. And then the city pays the water and sewer bill and hydrant water. And then the district pays fire insurance.
Yeah, and then there's what we've been doing too is if it's equipment that benefits that goes to the firefighters, that's a 50-50 split, or like
Okay.
a shared cost,
Like turnouts and
turnouts, PPE, stuff like that. And if there's like shared, like we don't, like we have like a cache of replacement hose. Sometimes sometimes I'll bill the city, sometimes I'll bill the fire district. I kind of handle that offline out of the 50-50, but it all, like there isn't like Skamania County Fire District 2 fire hose or Stevenson fire hose. But I suppose if you set up this agreement, we might need to address something like that.
and maybe not shared resource, but I'm spacing on the word, just like rolling stock type items.
Consumables.
Consumables, thank you. Like those items. Is that kind of what you're getting at?
Yeah, I kind of manage that outside of that,
Okay.
I just bought some wildland stuff. And I think the last time we bought it through a grant that Fire District 2 got. And this time I bought it through the city and billed it 50/50 because there was some equipment side of it there. So yeah, I try to equal that out, but that's me doing that. And if we need to put that on some type of policy or interlocal, for when me and Liana and Scott and everybody are retired and drinking margaritas,
Mhm.
they'll have some guidance in the future.
I mean, there's large portions of this that's just gonna get eliminated. The district to city, the city to district. Cause I think right now about 75 or 80% of our apparatus are district apparatus.
But it's got stars by it. I'm
Yeah.
gonna keep it. It's got a star.
The only version I could find.
No, I know, I'm just.
Yeah.
So what were the other
So-
points of what to keep? So
Um,
we found that there were items that even though we haven't agreed on the split percentage, but agreed on the items.
What-
that would be
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else for that portion? Or like, while I'm talking about the, we already talked about the two chiefs. Are we keeping that?
No, that can go away.
I think the chief needs to, since what we're doing as a joint operation interlocal, there needs to be some language in there that says the chief is going to represent both agencies. So operationally, that what we're doing is putting in an interlocal agreement and say, we're going to operate as a single entity. Financially, we have two separate agencies. There's quite a bit of stuff that I only represent Fire District 2 with as a chief. And if there's that, there's also stuff that I represent the city as the chief. Almost every mutual aid agreement, every interlocal agreement with dispatch services.
So would it be
everything.
fair?
So I sign, I'm the chief for District 2 and the chief for City of Stevenson.
Would it be fair to then put a job description in here? Clarifying that, or like loosely as far as what the position does for both agencies? Does it need that?
I think that would be something, a good first step towards, whether we determine that there's enough work or workload
Mhm.
to go to a paid chief, or we get some step up from the current membership, so they are under the understanding of what the role entails. A lot of it is learn as you go, and I have almost 30 years as I go, so yeah, probably documenting that might be a good deal.
And we can make it to where it's flexible, insofar as just having the language to where whether it's volunteer or paid, that those duties are still done by the chief, and then
Yeah, like representing the districts and the
Yeah.
departments and
Mhm. Mhm. You don't happen to have any examples of those, do you, Rob?
as far as what I represent.
Just a stock,
Oh,
yeah,
description?
job description.
No, but I think I could get some from other agencies. We can
Okay.
probably build off of that.
Mhm.
Probably White Salmon and Fire District 3, since they're going through the regional fire
Right.
fire authority stuff. I'm sure West Long or Bill has something.
All right, so it looks like another point of discussion is the city performing administrative duties for Fire District 2. Is that in the current agreement? Or is that what you're supposed to suggest?
No, that was, so. Again, it kind of goes to the structure, and that was around administrative staff or fire chief. Like, how else could that work? And then also incorporating that into the interlocal agreement. So,
Yeah, so it's kind of morphed into a lot more city staff and city budget agreement over the years.
Mhm.
So like all the 50-50 stuff, all the stuff that we buy that's, you know, shared or joint, that goes to the city. And then the city, like I tell Caitlin how to bill it if it's joint, and then she keeps a log, and I believe they bill the fire district quarterly.
yeah,
Yeah, it used to be annually. We've switched it to quarterly, and it's usually a pretty decent itemized list. And then the fire district takes that and then codes it into their bar system, and pays the city back, reimburses them, I guess, is the best explanation. But we do rely on the city does all of the personnel stuff, all of the what are we W-2 employees, Liana? W-4?
yeah, but you're volunteers, and so it's a
Yeah.
stipend, but it still runs through that
All
process.
the L&I stuff, the
Yeah,
insurance, all of that's done.
right.
Everybody's a city. That's all done with the city.
And I did get
stuff.
clarification from Robert Muth as far as the city policies, and we need to clearly state which personnel policies apply to the volunteers and which don't. So like holiday pay wouldn't apply. You know, some of it's pretty cut and dry, so.
Yeah.
That should be,
And I do hold
Straightforward.
some, I do mirror some policies I use the cities as a base. When we got that federal grant, I had to write some civil rights policies, and I use the city's policy as a base. So we do hold some mirrored policies. I think my thought process on that is to try to, I don't know, I was gonna try to bounce that off Liana. Do we do a handbook just for the fire department, or do we leverage what's already written in the city personnel and then go through and note it, what this includes volunteer fire, or, you know, what's the least amount of reinventing the wheel? So that's one of the things that's on my
that stuff was harder,
2024.
so I didn't put it down for the first meeting.
Yeah. That's the bigger bite. That's more of the slice of the pie instead of the taste the crumb.
Yeah.
There was also some stuff in there. The minimum numbers, I don't know where that came from. The minimum and maximum. I think it was minimum 18 men, which I was very surprised to see that language, even for 1989. And then max of 35 or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't think there should be a max.
Mhm.
Minimum I guess we could go back to if is there any Washington state requirements? I don't know. I noticed that that agreement was signed by somebody from a Washington insurance agency or something like that. I'm not even sure if that department still exists.
It's attested by someone, yeah.
Oh. Look at that.
I'm not even sure if that. I don't. I've heard of other departments in other states get like their certifications pulled by the state, but I don't think I've ever heard of that in Washington state. Like you hear about that from like weird departments back east where they're not like a city department, they're like a company. So that in EMS, you see that more in EMS in Washington, not in fire departments. So there's that language, and then trying to scroll through here.
And then I think, so one thing that I noted was, it was a lot of, the city shall respond to rural calls and calls within or without the city limits. And that language can just be changed to within the district and city. So
Yeah.
kind of highlighting the partnership between the two agencies.
Yeah, if you go to there's some language, like if you go to section 3 under B number 2, it's on top of page 4. It references the basically a mutual aid agreement.
Right.
And I don't know if we need to outline those mutual aid agreement terms in this one.
That'd be a question for Robert, I think.
I mean, I think we could probably reference like district equipment. It said district equipment shall not be taken beyond the limits of the district except by permission of the fire
Marshall.
chief or one of the fire district commissioners. That's changed. I mean, that's maybe more an operational thing. I don't know if we need to get
So
that.
just like reference a mutual aid agreement for equipment sharing or.
Yeah,
Okay. Well, and like you said,
yeah. that
when
whole
there were two
section to me-
positions, it
Yeah.
might have been different, but when you're the same person.
Yeah. And it's, a lot of our interoperability stuff changed, post 9/11, in the fire service anyway. So the borders really are just there. I mean, we don't ever say we're not going to go help, Fire District 5 or Fire District 1. So it's all under the mutual aid agreement. We even have mutual aid agreements in place that will take us clear to Sherman County in Oregon and in Wasco. We were on the White River fire a couple of years ago down in southern Wasco. So it's kind of outdated philosophy on that whole section 3.
Mhm.
So I guess I have another question about the mutual aid. So section 3A2. The district chief shall send any available equipment and men to a distress area within the city. So in case there's a simultaneous call. So I feel like that doesn't need to be there anymore.
No. Because the way we work is we'll run calls, like we were out on a call today and we had we had 3 district apparatus and 1 city. Actually, we had 2 city, but I had the second city taken back to the hall. Now I knew that I had Gordy semi available in the city, that he could run a second out call. And the leadership on the first call knew that if we had another call that we would initiate mutual aid requests from our partners, District 5 and District 1. So that's kind of handled under like an operational type of agreement, understanding SOP, I guess.
Okay, well, it sounds like we've been kind of backing into just rewriting that whole mutual aid and assistance
Yeah,
portion anyway, instead of
yeah,
trying
that whole section
trying to
3
pick
is
apart what's
just,
already here.
I agree there.
Seems to me like there's a lot of operational things that are within this mutual aid agreement that don't need to be there.
It can be cleaned up.
Well, can't you outline this and then have like addendums that are, instead of having it included in the actual contract, or does it have to be spelled out like it is? Like appendixes or mutual aid as described
Reference the
in.
mutual
or
aid
for-
agreement.
We can
and
just
have that
existing-
As its own,
Oh,
for
it's not
existing mutual aid
part.
agreement, so we don't have to have it like sparse throughout.
Well, and
pieces of
you'd
it.
want to say, as now and as amended.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, that way we take some of the specifics out of
Yes.
this
And
and
then you're not
lean
modifying
on
the
those.
contract, you're modifying.
the mutual aid
Like
agreement. later.
when the mutual aid agreement, if that gets modified, you don't then have to come back and modify the
Right,
contract.
because it just
Yes.
references it in its current state.
Right.
Boom. Okay,
Yeah, I think maybe some good language would be that both agencies agree to develop mutual aid agreements with local and regional partners. Make that a point that we are gonna be a part of that. But yeah, going into details is just, I think it's a rabbit hole that will get us in trouble.
Well, and we're just gonna have to make multiple changes. We have to change the mutual aid agreement, and then we have to change this each time we do that, rather than just going referencing that
yeah, because
exists.
then we're not changing the contract necessarily if it's just the mutual aid
Right.
Mhm.
portion.
Mhm.
And then do we like the term? If it's 5 years, unless nobody says anything and then it just perpetuates every 5 years, so is that the common 90-day notice of cancellation? I guess that's just boilerplate stuff. but
I
it's
think
5
there was
years.
in other interlocal agreements that in recent times, I know when Ken was still here, there was maybe a statutory requirement on updating the interlocal agreements is either 3 or 6 years. I'm not sure. We might have to run that through Robert.
And this reporting to the Washington Surveying and Rating Bureau, is that,
That can be removed, I believe.
Yeah. We don't do that. What we do with the Insurance Rating and Surveying Bureau is they come in and audit us every so often. And then that sets our insurance rating for our residents, which we're currently at a 5 right now off of our last audit, which is, it was a 9 when I started. That's cheap.
And the lower the number, the better.
Yeah.
The insurance rate for the community.
Just want to make that clear.
The district holds it, the district holds a rating and the city holds a rating separate.
Gotcha.
Mhm.
But they're all rating you, Rob.
No, actually, they're rating, a lot of it is the water system gets us,
Right.
gets the city leaps and bounds, and then our volunteers and our response protocols and our equipment. We get dinged every time because we don't have a hose drying rack. But we buy hose that doesn't have to be hose dried. It's kind of weird.
okay, so have we beat the contract to death? Are we ready to move on?
One question I have is how do you want to do the split? Do you want to keep it 50-50? 70-30 seems to be the rough average between both calls and assessed value.
Is that the number of calls?
Yeah, 70%.
Because number of calls versus personnel responding, I think is different. Because on a fire district 2 call, you'll have city personnel responding. So you're pulling out of city resources to take care of a fire district call.
Mhm.
So I think that you need to take a look at that as well.
May I rebut you, Dave?
Do what?
I think about of our volunteer department, I would say about less than 20% live in the city limits. And also, I think it's 80% of the apparatus are district owned that respond to calls right now. So just if we look at the numbers, that's what we've been looking at on call volume and other stuff, but the district owns the most apparatus. Like we put out in a couple of years consecutively, a lot of money for new brush trucks that respond to a lot of city calls. So it's kind of a little bit coloring it, we could go nitpicking back and forth, but we've looked at the numbers and it is consistently about 70% of the calls are in the city limits.
This whole thing drives me nuts, Mayor. It's like a bunch of kids in a sandbox all playing. You can't have my toys. You got those toys over there. Well, I bought that toy, so I should be able to have it. And
But Dave, it doesn't really work that way. Like,
it sure looks like it does.
no, it doesn't. If you get mired down in the physical stuff, it does. But we don't have city firefighters or county firefighters. We have Stevenson Fire Volunteers. They operate under the joint operation. I mean, if technically all of the firefighters are City of Stevenson volunteers, because that's how they're registered. They're W4 employees, quote unquote volunteers. They get paid by a city check. That split is reimbursed. Fire District 2 doesn't have any volunteers. If you look at it from the black and white stuff on paper, we respond regardless of if the fire is in the city limits or up on Loop Road. We don't say, oh, Ray, you live in the county, you can't go to that structure fire that's down
No,
on Shepherd.
Yeah, I understand that, Rob. So why don't we look at doing a regional fire authority then? Melding it all into one.
That's in another discussion.
Together, don't,
That's
Very
a different,
political.
we're
hang
just,
on,
I know you like to bring that up.
hold on to that one.
I love kicking the dog.
How much more taxes do you want to pay, Dave?
It depends.
Okay, so before we go down that path, let's start with the existing stuff, and then if we have time, we can move into the more upper level discussion about what we're to do in the long term. But for now, let's work on the org structure and the interlocal agreement.
Every time.
Okay, so now are we looking on the contract?
I just need to know what the split is.
No,
I mean, if 70-30 seems to be, like I said, the same between either calls or assessed valuation, and assessed valuation is just how you get your taxes. There's no way to get the population for Fire District 2 because it's not its own census tract. So can't do that easily. If there's another way you want me to look at the split, let me know.
you guys think?
It's pretty seamless the way it's going. But at the same token, you want to keep it easy for clerical staff that has to do all this. And perhaps something where to the effect that we'll keep doing it like this, at the end of the year, there's a number that comes up where this group should have paid more than this group. And here's the number, and then we decide, okay, let's take half of that number and transfer it to the district or the city. And accomplish what we're trying to accomplish that way. Just thought.
Why is there a disparity in the split? Why is it 70-30? Like how?
It's 50-50 right
Oh, no,
now.
it's 50-50 right now.
Yeah.
We're looking
Yeah.
at adjusting it to 70-30 based within the.
I mean, so from just a numbers and a financial perspective, right now, Fire District 2 is supplementing Stevenson.
Right.
Because Stevenson has more calls and we have more property that's protected by the fire department. Like, so that's why I was proposing a different split to be more equitable so that in essence, each department or each area, each taxing district is carrying its weight. And it was just magic that the calls worked out the same as this.
Same as that,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's amazing how closely that, over
Right?
the years.
Yeah,
over
yep.
time, It's been
Mhm.
70-30,
Mhm.
pretty close.
Yep.
So that call today, Rob, that would have been a fire district 2 call? It was
Yes.
neither, really.
It was a fire district 2,
Yep, fire district 2.
fire district 2 call.
Yeah.
But if it would have been across the street
Yeah.
on Rue Ellen,
Yeah.
it would have been city.
Yeah.
So we kept it in Fire District 2 instead
Yeah.
of it's spread. to
Or
six.
just down the street on Rock Creek or Ryan Allen.
Right.
7:30?
I'll put it in there and we can talk about it later if that doesn't work
Okay.
with everyone. Yeah. Mhm. And then one of the things I just want to touch base on is there were comments in the plan that suggested creating a joint operating board. Is that necessary, or if we have regular meetings, does that satisfy that joint operating board for,
Isn't that kind of
Contract
what this is
Yeah, I
now?
was like,
Right,
we-
exactly,
we-
yeah.
We need an
Yeah.
extra
If you do a
board.
Right.
quarterly meeting, it's probably the
Yeah.
equivalent
Yeah.
of doing the same.
I agree.
and then I also just threw in, do we want an agreement to address collaboration on a new fire hall or separate agreement for that when we get there?
I mean, I'm just one person. You guys can do what you want. Dave,
I agree.
okay.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I'm just trying to cover all the bases.
$20.
It's the second time. It's great.
Okay.
And you guys are gonna have a meeting in you. stuff
And
like that
then
stuff.
discussing the agreement, and the fire chiefs then also kind of leads into the change to the, city ordinance, and so it should reference the agreement. I seriously copied and pasted from White Salmon. I tried to find another agency with a volunteer fire chief appointment in their RCW or in their code. I couldn't find one. So, we can put in here, for the fire chief selection, other approvals as well. So does it need to have approval of the volunteers as well as the commissioners? Should it be vague and state as outlined in the interlocal agreement?
I
Like,
think
should the interlocal agreement then outline how the fire chief is selected in addition to what their duties are?
that makes more sense in case that there's a change that needs to be made to that. I think it'd be in there and we reference that.
Okay.
So as written here, it does say that the strategic plan suggested revising the current policy to further engage the city in selecting the city fire chief. So now, obviously, there's only one chief, so how do we propose to choose the fire chief if there are two entities involved? So, obviously, it's been through the volunteers in the past. We have this with, was it planning commission? The planning commission suggests a member and the city council says, sounds good. So I think that could be one option is that, the volunteers figure out who they would like to see as fire chief, and then if the mayor or city council says, sounds good. Or
And the
but
volunteers
And the
and
commission,
commissioners.
the
Yeah,
rule,
but there's
the
two different.
district
so that's
two
the
can
part
do
where
the
it
same.
gets sticky for me is,
Right.
okay, so you have. There only, the city has volunteers, the district does not. By what Rob said. But if the volunteers pick, does it have to go through the district? So I don't know how this all swirls together to make it so that it makes sense.
I feel like having approval of the commissioners would be similar to having approval of the council because the fire chief is for both,
Right.
even though it comes, I know, it's the end of a long day. Yeah.
It's just like, what?
Right,
Put a mirror in
yeah.
front of a mirror?
Yes, exactly, pretty much, yeah. So, we can get with some language probably similar to what was there as far as, you know, as proposed, or I can even see how the wording we have for the planning commission, but we can put, you know, by the, volunteers and the commission, and like, so would council then be the third, like the final approval, because we're the ones in essence that write the check.
They bring it to us.
Yeah.
What they're.
Yeah,
So it goes
Yeah.
volunteers to district to city.
yeah.
Nope.
That-
I'll throw this out there for
Uh-oh,
Please.
uh-oh.
a wrench in the gear. I don't feel like that's gonna work if you go to a paid chief model,
True.
Oh, that's true.
because that's gonna change, like right now, I think by some type of resolution. Like I report to the council. I don't report to Liana. I don't report to Scott. I work with Liana and work with Scott, but by some type of resolution, I believe. So if you go to a paid fire chief model, there's going to have to be some type of reporting structure there. Whether it still falls under the, you know, I guess it would be like, just like any of the other, like the public works director, the planning director, how that would work.
Well, I think until we,
Have to have some type of language there, and I don't know if that's future language or, you know, jump through that hoop when we get to language.
it feels like, because I agree, but it feels like until we budget and come up with a job description and start recruiting for a paid fire chief, then that selection process will be quite a bit different than what we're talking about now in the volunteer sphere.
Perhaps one way it might work is the men volunteers submit a name, and then there's a representative, the following folks would come together and be the committee that does that, and would be represented by the following people: the mayor, one of these and one of these, and one commissioner and one firefighter, and they come together and make the decision. And that could work in no matter who's chief, volunteer or paid.
Do have like a hiring. board.
Yeah, like just a fire chief
Interview
selection
panel,
committee.
yeah.
You know,
Assembled.
You could
Yeah,
have someone
yeah.
from the district
Yeah.
and people from the city.
Yeah.
Does that go
and
back?
it, and,
to,
it, and it's comprised of these people, and yeah. Mhm.
And
Does
still-
that go back to the board that they suggested, Liana? I'm
Hello.
Through trying to
Oh.
find that verbiage.
Hi, Howard.
Hey, I want to type in real quick. I finally figured out how to unmute. I think adopting the planning commission mode is a horrible idea. I don't think that frankly works, because you put the onus into a group that makes a suggestion, but there's no
That's
control
the
that the city council can just come back and say, no, we're not going to do that. So we need to look at having multiple approvals, probably from both the fire commissioners and city council. That's my opinion.
Or this committee.
Well, or like a hiring committee, and the hiring committee would. So like, I can see the approval process being the same, you know, the hiring
Right.
committee presents it and the commission approves it. The commissioners approve it at the fire district, and then the council is the final approval. Would that? Because the
have
hiring
to see
committee
it.
isn't gonna be a quorum of anyone.
Yeah. I'd have to see
Still
the
gotta
language.
include the volunteers, though.
Yeah,
That's-
absolutely.
That's one
Yes.
part you cannot
Well,
remove
and
is
I-
at the base is because unfortunately, there's only a couple of us here that know what it's like to be in the middle of the situation and see who has
Well,
it.
the
You know,
first-
Dave knows what that's like. You have to have it to take control of, you know, something like that.
Yeah, the first suggestion was that the potential chief was decided by the volunteers.
Okay.
That was step one. The second proposal would be that there would be representatives of the volunteers.
So the
representatives
next step
of
would be,
district, and representatives of the
Okay.
city.
the
So it's
next,
just-
On that,
what-
on that committee.
yeah, the next step, they would go to the committee for approval or whatever.
The name
Okay,
would come up in the
Mhm.
committee.
okay.
Mhm. And the committee can consist of representatives from the volunteers that are chosen amongst the volunteers to make that decision, or,
Yeah, I think you should have a piece of
Right.
everybody who's got,
Right.
the
Yeah.
stakeholders
Yeah,
should all
yeah.
have a
Mhm.
voice in it, right? I mean, that.
Yeah, it's one meeting,
Yeah.
hopefully.
Yeah,
But I
Mhm.
agree with you, Ray, that it is, you're picking someone that you're going to have to rely on in a time of jeopardy. So I don't know if that means that there's more volunteers on the selection committee but I do feel that the input from the volunteers is the most important part.
I think the volunteers bringing the names up to the selection committee. How else is the selection committee gonna get names for it,
Yeah.
right? It's coming up from the volunteers, so they're the ones who kind of, these are the,
yeah.
So the volunteers
I
present
mean,
the
yeah,
slate
we
of
can, we
candidates.
can have I mean, I
Right.
think our hiring process sets a pretty good base already, like. You're not gonna be a felon, you're gonna be a good citizen, those sort of things. You know, and I don't think they're gonna get past our department if they're not showing up to meetings and
right,
showing a vested interest. No volunteer is gonna recommend them
right.
if we don't think they're truly care for the rest of us, you know, putting our butts out there on the line, so.
Mhm.
And then, yeah, just get them to the next step.
What you guys, Wayne, Joel, Jason, thoughts? The selection, the process of getting a new chief.
It would seem to me that you could have three entry points, whether it comes from the district, the membership, or the city council. And that amongst those three, they can decide how their vote counts. But if you have three yes votes, then that person could become the chief. So it doesn't matter whether it's a hired person or a volunteer. It has those same three pathways that come in, the same process to vote up or down. And membership from the department can say, we have to have a consensus, or we have to have, one way of coming up with our vote. City council would do something they'll decide on, and district do something different. My thoughts.
Yeah, the volunteers may, at the time, they may have a limited talent pool that's interested in the job as well, so they may not be able to provide a nominee necessarily for that.
Yeah, I get that part, but to Ray's point, it's something that has to be vetted through the volunteers.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, as volunteers either vote with their hands or.
Just because it didn't come from your
Yeah,
ranks
vote
doesn't
for
mean
not
that
showing up and- yeah.
your approval isn't the most important part of the whole thing.
Well, and would the process be similar to hiring a city administrator or a public works director, or where you have the interviews and you do I guess it all depends on to
Right.
what level we're hiring and what history they have with the city. But then you also do a tour and you involve people from the department and all of that. Those are the-
Okay, so it sounds like we're keen on involving the three entities, if we
Mhm.
want to call it that. And we can refine the process from there. pretty much
Yeah,
with all the points. Right at 7, are you kidding me?
So we're setting the meeting date tomorrow. We have
Yeah.
those stuff together. Oh, no.
Park Plaza.
Oh, jeez. Is it?
Oh, yeah.
Would. Oh, here,
It's been.
you pointed here. I was like,
In a week.
No kidding.
Next meeting date. Did everyone bring their calendars?
Okay, so I guess it depends on how soon we want to resolve these talking points. And then get on to the quarterly schedule. So that helps with our scheduling timeline. We should probably get the contract ironed out. So how do you want to do that, Leon? So you propose a contract and then you send it out to those of the district, to Rob. And this council will review it and then say, or do we do it like just before the meeting, like we always do? This is what's proposed and be ready to vote.
No. I can provide it to each agency. And I'll see when I can get a draft done. Because the commission meets next week. I'm not gonna be able to get it in time for you to talk at your next commission meeting. I was just trying to see if there's gonna be a meeting between now and then, maybe another joint meeting.
So I'd like to get the contract squared away sooner than later. Because then the other thing I want to bring up is that once we get through this part of it, Liana is not driving the ship anymore. She's going to go back to being city administrator and not being fired representative.
Well, but I want to back that up with some history as far as like the city council in our strategic plan approved creating the fire department strategic plan. Implementing it was not part of that. As far as staff and resources go.
Right.
And that needs to be revisited and things need to fall off in order to have
If
the
there's going to be
capacity.
Implementation.
Exactly.
aspects.
Yes.
Yeah,
Cities.
implementation is challenging, even with the ClearGovs. Like I'm having a huge learning curve on it, and even time, like I'm tracking my time each month now, and we definitely need to look at that differently on your next strategic plan for the city. I think there needs to be some staff time dedicated. Because I need to rely on Liana for, fit, form, and function on policy and tracking, even tracking. The ClearGovs thing is great, but it's still cumbersome at this point. So I'm not working it all the time.
It's kind of
Okay, so with that understanding, then that will be discussed at our next strategic plan evaluation.
So Mayor, are we postponing C until a later discussion?
You didn't come back.
Well, I'm not opposed to talking about it.
Got another hour?
No. How about we set a date and then come back to that?
So, okay, just.
Because I think
If
it's something that we've got to get ironed out.
Any
at
of
some
you
point.
have a packet in front of you, something that came out of a budget discussion was the idea that I don't know if it holds any water really, is folding one into the other. Well, we talked about going city into district. Is that part of the discussion?
Yeah, so either way, let's see. So if you go city into district, then the resident taxes increase. You can do a regional fire authority and not give that regional fire authority any additional taxation abilities. Or you can give it additional taxation abilities, and the way that that's formed is different. But then the financial aspect of how you fund that regional fire authority is ironed out in the process to create the plan that you then present to voters.
So
So-
the reason that if you annex the city into the fire district,
Mhm.
the reason the taxes go up is to offset the amount of revenue that you're losing.
So that I looked into it further. The only reason that the city would lose revenue is if the city creates a fire district that are its boundaries. So the reason why property taxes would go up for city residents if we annexed into Fire District 2 is because then city residents are then paying Fire District 2 taxes.
But we're already paying
No, we're
fire
paying,
district.
Okay.
We're already
so
paying. Okay, no.
no,
We're
it's
getting
it's
rabbit
gonna be in
hole
your general,
tonight.
right, yeah.
That was one thing that came up, and this is something that was a fairly recent discussion. The other idea that has been bandied about a little bit longer is the idea of a regional fire authority. And
The
that,
county.
well, it wouldn't be just the two of us. It would
Right.
be, be looking at some other potential candidates to be rolled into that concept. And there's been very successful models or agencies that have been formed with this model that have been very successful. So it's a way to share resources. It's a way to share, well, all resources, money, volunteers, apparatus. So that's the one that seems to make the most sense. But I feel like that has to be more of a guided discussion than just throwing ideas around.
Mhm.
So would welcome the discussion. I don't know that we're ready to have it tonight.
I think we're a ways away. But we still I think we need to fix what we have, in my opinion.
But this isn't the last time this is going to come up. I can guarantee you that because we talk about it, it pops up. So
Yep.
it's like I say, it'll be a guided discussion so that we can all learn together and figure it out together.
And in the packet, there's the link to MRSC, to some information on the RFAs. There's way more in there and you can go down all the rabbit holes.
Well, and then, like Steve, instead of alluding to successful models, I'd like to collect those and present them and really put on have a presentation, but be prepared. Just know that it's something that we've been talking about and it looks like it's something that could work for us for those reasons. Falling volunteer rates, and that's not just here, it's nationwide. And then combining our resources to make a bigger impact than trying to stretch what we have currently.
Mhm.
So be prepared, it's gonna come up. Is there anything that I missed? Rob, you guys, commissioners, anything that we missed? We've got a decent crowd here. Except for you guys.
And the crowd decent, or their size of the crowd decent.
Decent sized crowd.
Mm.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I guess, yeah, when do you want to
Oh, right. meeting
have
day.
this back?
November or December? No, we already have something scheduled for our November workshop, right?
We could, so we had a deep dive to the budget. We could, does November 8th work?
Because we don't have to do ARPA then, so we could do
Yeah.
November. That work for everybody?
Well, we already got scheduled the 8th, so
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I'm good.
So council's good. Does that work for you?
November 8th here, 6 o'clock.
Howard, Rob, would that work for you? It's a Wednesday.
Yep.
Okay,
I'll be in town.
Yeah, I can make it work.
okay.
Sweet.
Does that work for you?
Wednesdays are hard for me.
what about Thursday the 9th?
Thursdays are a lot better.
I cannot do that day.
How about election day?
I know, we're on Tuesday the 7th.
Wait, does that mean I'd have to show up? for
Yeah.
one?
Right? Yes, yes, you have to show up until it's certified.
Right.
Shouldn't we really schedule it on Thanksgiving?
Yeah, yep, I think that sounds great.
That'd be after.
No, that's, that's when we do the strategic plan.
Well, okay, so
Yeah.
we already polled city council on whether, on moving that workshop date. Was there a reason that we didn't go with the Tuesday? Wednesday?
Well, the reason why it was Wednesday is because the way we had it set up was the second Wednesday of every month for the initial.
When we initially started
When we
this.
initially started the workshops,
All right, because I'm
Yeah.
fine with Tuesday.
this Tuesday, the 7th work,
for me.
You send out an invite.
I can.
Awesome.
And I have to reschedule my show, but I'll do that for you this time.
You'll do that for us.
This time,
You're such.
just this time.
You're so good.
I know. I mean,
So I voted for you.
Oh, boy.
Okay.
Me, that might be. Anything else?
TMI.
Gavel's up. Thank you all very much for coming. 7:11, 7:12, adjourned.